Welcome to Dad's Corner, and tonight we're going from pixels to planets. I'm going to take you down the rabbit hole, all the way back to the 1960s, where the first space game was actually created, and the name of that game was called Space Wars. I know, it's exceptionally creative, and it was played on one of the oldest machines, a mainframe. So I know you guys know exactly what a mainframe is, because gosh, yeah, we're going back, way back. So let's get going. From the pixelated stars of the 1960s to the sprawling galaxies of today, space games have captivated our imagination for over 6 decades. They've taken us from the earliest days of computing to the brink of virtual reality, allowing us to explore the cosmos and command ships and forge our own destinies among the stars. In this video, I want to embark on a journey with you through the history of PC gaming. The space game genre has come a long way. We'll explore how games evolved, the technologies that shaped them, and the stories behind them that made them unforgettable. I'm not going to exhaustively be able to cover all the PC games ever in existence, but I am going to try and highlight those that stood out to me. Strap in, engage your hyperdrive, and let's blast off into the histories of PC gaming. What you're about to see today, you're never going to be able to unsee. The dawn of space games, 1963 to 1979. Let's go. Our journey begins in 1963 with the birth of the first digital space game, Space Wars, created by Stephen Russell and his team at MIT, Space Wars. It was a simple, revolutionary game, played on a PDP-1 mainframe computer. Now, even I had to look this up, it's that old. And I'm not saying I'm old. It featured 2 spaceships battling around a gravity well, with players using toggle switches to control their ships. While primitive by today's standards, Space War laid the foundation for all games that came afterwards. It was the first game to simulate space physics, and its influence is still being seen today in modern titles. Now, if you guys see these controllers, you'll appreciate the Xbox and the PlayStation controllers completely. In the 1970s, space games began to take off literally. Text-based games like Star Trek in 1971 allowed players to command the USS Enterprise, engaging in turn-based battles with the Klingons. Meanwhile, Empire in 1977 introduced strategic space combat, letting players build fleets and conquer galaxies. These early games were limited to the technology of the time, but they captured the imagination of generations, and that set the stage for what was to come. The golden age of arcade and home computing. 1980 to 1989. Arcade cabinets and home computers brought space adventure to the masses. One of the most iconic games of this era was Asteroids in 1979. With its vector-based physics, addictive gameplay, Asteroids became a cultural phenomenon. Players controlled a small ship, blasting apart asteroids and dodging UFOs in an endless battle for survival. The real game changer came in 1984 with Elite. Developed by David Barron and Ian Bell, Elite was a groundbreaking game set in an open-world space simulation. It featured a procedurally generated galaxy, 3D wireframe graphics, and a sandbox-style gameplay that let players trade, fight, and explore at their own pace. Elite was a masterpiece of its time and inspired countless future games. Other notable titles of the time included Star Raiders in the 1980s, which combined space combat with strategic elements. The 1980s proved that space games weren't just about shooting asteroids. They could be immersive, complex, and have deep engaging storytelling. The 1990s brought the rise of 3D graphics and space sims. We saw space games reaching new heights thanks to the rise of 3D graphics and CD-ROM technology. Now, up until this point, games were loaded through floppies or stiffies, and the best 3D graphics card at the time was the Voodoo series. Voodoo FX was king of the hill. The Wing Commander series by Chris Roberts became the defining franchise of this decade. with its cinematic cutscenes, branching storylines, and intense space combat, Wing Commander felt like playing a movie. It also introduced us to memorable characters like Christopher Blair, Mark Hamill as Colonel Blair. Meanwhile, the X-Wing and TIE Fighter series in 1993 to 1994 brought the Star Wars universe to life like never before. These games combined space combat with authentic Star Wars lore, letting players pilot iconic ships like the X-Wing and the TIE Fighter in epic battles. Other standout games of the time was Descent, released in 1995, which introduced 6 degrees freedom of movement, allowing players to fly in any direction. It was fast-paced, the gameplay was in a 3D environment, and it became a cult classic. And let's not forget Homeworld, a real-time strategy game that took players into the realm of 3D space battles, commanding massive fleets. With its stunning visuals, emotional storytelling, Homeworld remained a beloved title to this day. In the 2000s, online multiplayer and massive universes was the name of the game. The 2000s brought space games into the online era with massive multiplayer universes and deep storytelling. EVE Online in 2003 was a trailblazer. Set in a persistent online universe, EVE allowed thousands of players to explore, trade, and wage war in a player-driven economy. Its scale and complexity were unprecedented, and its stories, like the infamous Battle of BR5RB, became legendary. Another honorary release was Star Wars Galaxies, which became a cult favorite with everyone that loved Star Wars. Star Wars Galaxies had a massive following, released in 2003 as well. On the narrative front, the Mass Effect series from 2007 to 2012 redefined what space games could be. With its rich storytelling, memorable characters like Commander Shepard and Gorius, and branching choices, Mass Effect felt like an interactive epic. Other noteworthy games of the time was Freelancer in 2003, which combined open-world exploration with action-packed combat. The Cabal space program in 2011, a physics-based simulator that let players design and launch their own rockets into space. The 2000s showed us that space games could be vast and personal, offering something for every kind of player. 2010, indie developers and virtual reality dominated the space. The 2010 saw space games diversify, with indie titles and virtual reality pushing the boundaries of the space genre. Elite Dangerous in 2014 brought the Elite franchise into the modern era, offering a realistic space simulation with stunning visuals and VR support. Indie games also made their mark, like FTL, Faster Than Light in 2012, combining roguelike gameplay with strategic ship management, while Outer Wilds offered a time loop mystery set on a handcrafted solar system. But No Man's Sky in 2016 was one of the most ambitious games of the decade, promising a procedurally generated universe with billions of planets. It faced a rocky launch, eventually redeeming itself through years of updates. Today, it's a beloved exploration game with a thriving community. And let's not forget about VR, which allowed players to step into the cockpit like never before. Games like Lone Echo in 2017 and Star Wars Squadrons in 2020 showcased the immersive potential of virtual reality. The future, Star Citizen and beyond. Looking to the future, space games are more ambitious than ever. Star Citizen, the brainchild of Chris Roberts, has been in development for over a decade. With its massive scope, detailed universe, and unprecedented crowdfunding success, Star Citizen aims to be the ultimate space sim. While its full release is still on the horizon, it's already a testament to the passion of space fans everywhere. Other upcoming titles like Squadron 42 and Everspace 2, which has just been released, promises to push the genre even further. And with advancement in AI and VR and cloud gaming, the possibilities are endless. From the humble beginnings of Space Wars to the boundless worlds of Star Citizen, space games have come a long way. They've evolved with technology and inspired countless players, and they've allowed us to explore the galaxy from the comfort of our own homes. As we look to the future, one thing is clear: the journey is far from over, and we look forward to the epic release of Star Citizen and Squadron 42. The stars are calling, and space games will continue to take us there. So let me know what your favorite space game is. And if you like the content, give us a thumbs up. Thank you very much for watching. Hasta la vista, baby. This show is about pixels.